Ethan Sullivan sat alone at table 17, nursing a cup of tea that had gone cold 20 minutes ago. Around him, the wedding reception hummed with life, laughter, clinking glasses, champagne toasts, the DJ announcing the father-daughter dance. He was an island of stillness in a sea of celebration. 3 years. 3 years since his wife Rachel had died, and he still couldn't sit at a wedding without feeling the weight of her absence pressing against his chest like a physical thing. He should leave. No one would notice. He'd done his duty, showed his face, congratulated the couple, signed the guest book. His colleague wouldn't take offense if he slipped out early. Everyone knew his situation. Everyone understood. His hand reached for his car keys. "Excuse me, mister." Ethan looked up. 3 identical little girls stood at his table, maybe 6 years old, one with matching blonde curls tied back with pink ribbons. They wore pale pink dresses that matched their ribbons, and they were staring at him with the kind of intense focus usually reserved for mission-critical operations. "Are you lost?" Ethan asked, glancing around for a frantic parent. "Do you need help finding your mom or dad?" "We found you on purpose," the girl on the left said. "We've been looking for someone like you all night." The middle one added, "And you're perfect." The right one finished. Ethan blinked. Perfect for what? The 3 girls exchanged glances, one of those silent sibling conversations that seemed to involve telepathy. And then, in perfect synchronization, they leaned forward close enough that Ethan could smell strawberry shampoo. Their voices dropped to urgent whispers. "We need you to pretend you're our father. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel." Ethan's brain stuttered to a complete halt. "I'm sorry, what?" "Just for tonight," the left girl clarified quickly. "Just until the party's over. Then you can go back to being a stranger, and we'll never bother you again. We promise." "We'll even pay you," the middle one said, producing a crumpled $5 bill from somewhere in her dress. "This is everything we have, but it's yours." Ethan set down his teacup carefully like it might shatter. "Girls, I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. I can't just... Please." The right one's eyes were suddenly bright with unshed tears. "Our mom is so lonely. She sits by herself at every wedding, every party, every event. People look at her with these sad faces because she doesn't have a husband, because we don't have a dad. And she smiles and pretends she's fine. But she's not fine. We can see it." Something in Ethan's chest cracked wide open. He knew that smile. He'd worn himself for 3 years. The smile that said, "I'm okay," when you were absolutely, definitely not okay. "Where's your mom?" he heard himself ask. All 3 girls pointed in perfect unison across the reception hall. Near the bar stood a woman in a red dress that stopped Ethan's heart mid-beat. Not because it was revealing. It was actually quite modest, with elegant long sleeves and a high neckline. But because she was so stunning, it felt almost unfair to everyone else in the room. Blonde hair swept up in a classic updo, the kind of timeless beauty that belonged in old Hollywood films. And that same smile Ethan had just been thinking about, the one that didn't quite reach her eyes. She was holding a glass of wine, standing alone while groups of people chatted and laughed around her, creating an invisible barrier she clearly wasn't part of. Ethan recognized the stance immediately, the way she held herself just slightly apart, present but not participating, there but not belonging. She looked exactly how he felt every single day. "That's our mama," the left girl whispered. "Her name is Caroline. Caroline Hayes. The middle one added, "She works 2 jobs so we can have nice things. She reads us stories every night. Even when she's tired, she never complains. And nobody ever talks to her at parties," the right one said, her voice breaking slightly. "They just look at her like she's sad and broken. But she's not broken. She's perfect. She's just alone." Ethan felt his throat tighten. This was insane. 3 children he'd never met, asking him to pretend to be their father so their mother could have one night without pity stares. But then Caroline turned slightly, caught sight of her daughters at his table, and Ethan saw her expression shift. Surprise, concern. That flash of maternal panic followed immediately by resignation. The look of a parent who chased wandering children through too many public places. She set down her wine glass and started walking toward them, red heels clicking on hardwood. Ethan had maybe 15 seconds to make a decision. He looked at the 3 girls, at the desperate hope in their identical faces, the fierce protective love they had for their mother. He thought about Rachel, about how she would have loved these kids, or about how she would have told him to stop hiding, to stop just surviving, to actually live again. "Okay," Ethan said quietly. "What are your names?" 3 faces lit up like Christmas morning. "I'm Harper," the left girl breathed. "Grace," the middle one said. "Violet," the right one whispered. "All right, Harper, Grace and Violet." Ethan straightened his tie, took a breath. "Tell me about your mom, quick. What is she like?" The girls immediately started talking over each other. "She likes books and she hates mushrooms. And she laughs when people trip, but then feels bad about it. And she's scared of thunder, but pretends she's not for us." Caroline was getting closer now, maybe 10 feet away. Ethan could see her more clearly. The elegant dress, the careful makeup, and the way she held herself with dignity despite obviously being mortified. "Why me?" Ethan asked quickly. "Why not someone else?" All 3 girls looked at him like the answer was obvious. "Because you look lonely too," Harper said simply. "Just like Mama. We thought maybe lonely people could help each other stop being lonely just for one night." And that might have been the most insightful thing anyone had said to Ethan in 3 years. "Girls?" Caroline's voice was musical, slightly breathless, tinged with embarrassment. "I am so sorry. I hope they weren't bothering you." She was even more beautiful up close. Not magazine cover beautiful. Something warmer than that. Real. The kind of beauty that came with laugh lines and a face that had lived a full life. Ethan stood the way his mother had taught him. "They weren't bothering me at all. Or actually, I was just asking them if it would be okay if I joined your table. Sitting alone at weddings is depressing." Caroline's eyes widened. Surprise flickered across her face, followed by confusion, followed by something that looked dangerously like hope before she shut it down. "Oh, you don't have to. I mean, they probably cornered you." "They didn't corner anyone," Ethan lied smoothly. He gestured to his abandoned teacup. "I've been sitting here trying to work up the courage to introduce myself to the beautiful woman in the red dress. Your daughters just gave me the perfect excuse." Caroline's cheeks flushed pink, and for just a second, that fake smile became real. "I'm Caroline," she said, extending her hand. "Caroline Hayes. And these troublemakers are my daughters, Harper, Grace, and Violet." Ethan finished shaking her hand. Her skin was soft and warm. They already introduced themselves. "I'm Ethan, Ethan Sullivan." Behind Caroline's back, where she couldn't see, all 3 girls were giving Ethan enthusiastic thumbs up. This was either going to be a disaster or the best decision he'd made in 3 years? Probably both. Caroline led him to her table, number 23, tucked in a corner that felt deliberately chosen for its invisibility. Ethan held her chair, an automatic gesture his mother had drilled into him as a boy, and saw a surprise flicker across Caroline's face, like she wasn't used to men doing small courtesies. The girls climbed into their chairs, practically vibrating with excitement. Harper kept shooting Ethan meaningful looks that were about as subtle as a fire alarm. Grace was grinning so hard it looked painful. Violet kept whispering, "It's working," under her breath. "So," Caroline said clearly, trying to smooth over the awkwardness her daughters had created, "I really am sorry about them ambushing you. They have this habit of talking to strangers, no matter how many times I explain why that's not okay." "We're very good at talking to strangers," Harper announced proudly. "That's not the compliment you think it is, sweetie," Caroline said, but there was warmth in her voice. Ethan laughed, a real laugh that surprised him. When was the last time he'd done that? "Honestly, they did me a favor," he said. "I was about to leave, go home to an empty house, and pretend I didn't spend another Saturday night alone." The words came out before he could stop them. Too honest, too raw. Caroline's eyes met his, and he saw recognition there. Understanding. "I know that feeling," she said quietly, then catching herself. "I mean, I imagine that must be hard." "You don't have to pretend," Ethan said. "The girls already told me you work 2 jobs and do this alone. That takes strength most people don't have." Caroline looked down at her wine glass, her fingers tracing the stem. "Or desperation," she said. "It's hard to tell the difference sometimes." A waiter appeared, saving them from the heavy moment. "Can I get you folks anything from the bar?" "I'll have whatever she's drinking," Ethan said, nodding to Caroline's wine. "And can we have Shirley Temples?" Grace asked hopefully. "With extra cherries," Violet added. "Please," Harper finished, remembering her manners. The waiter smiled and left. Caroline shook her head at her daughters. "Ask, you're going to be bouncing off the walls with all that sugar." "That's a problem for later, Mama," Harper said solemnly. "Right now, Mama gets to have fun." Ethan barked another laugh. These kids were something else. The evening unfolded in a way Ethan hadn't expected. Conversation came easily. About the wedding. About the absurdly fancy centerpieces. About whether the cake would be chocolate or vanilla. The girls chimed in with their own observations, pointing out when a flower girl picked her nose or when great-aunt somebody's wig shifted during dancing. "Harper, Grace, Violet, that's not polite," Caroline said, but she was fighting a smile. "But it's true," Violet protested. "We're just being observational." "The word is observant," Caroline corrected. "That's what I said." Ethan found himself relaxing in a way he hadn't in years. The girls were hilarious, without meaning to be. Caroline was quick-witted and sharp, matching his jokes beat for beat. And for the first time since Rachel died, Ethan felt like a person again instead of just a widower going through the motions. "Dance with our mama," Harper suddenly announced. "Harper," Caroline said, her face flushing. "The DJ just said it's time for everyone to dance," Grace added helpfully. "That means everyone." "Including you," Violet finished, looking between Ethan and Caroline with alarming determination. Ethan stood and offered his hand. "I think we're outnumbered." Caroline looked at his hand like it might bite her. "I haven't danced in 4 years." "Neither have I," Ethan admitted. "We'll probably step on each other's feet and embarrass ourselves. But your daughters have gone to a lot of effort to orchestrate this. Something in Caroline's expression softened. She took his hand. The song was slow, romantic, something Ethan didn't recognize. He placed one hand on Caroline's waist, kept the other clasping hers, careful, respectful. This close, he could see golden flecks in her hazel eyes, could smell her perfume, light, floral. Your daughters are master manipulators, Ethan said. I'm aware, Caroline replied dryly. I'm raising tiny con artists. They love you. They danced in silence for a moment. Ethan realized he was enjoying himself. Can I ask you something? Caroline said quietly. Sure. Why did you say yes? Ethan thought about it. Because I saw your face when you thought they were bothering me. You were already bracing for rejection, and I know that feeling. I wanted to give you one night where you didn't have to brace. Caroline's eyes glistened. That's the kindest thing anyone has said to me in a very long time. Is it helping? She asked. Does it matter for tonight? She smiled. One more? She asked when the song ended. I don't mind at all. They danced through 3 more songs. When they returned to the table, the girls were beside themselves. You danced for 4 whole songs, Harper reported. Mission accomplished, Violet whispered. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Ethan danced with each of the girls, Harper standing on his feet, Grace twirling until she was dizzy, Violet demanding dramatic dips. He made Caroline laugh until she snorted. They shared wedding cake, vanilla. For 4 hours, Ethan forgot he was a widower. Caroline forgot she was a struggling single mother. And when the DJ announced last call, reality crept back in. I should get them home, Caroline said. Ethan stood, unsure. Then Harper appeared at his elbow. Thank you for being our pretend daddy tonight. Something in Ethan's chest cracked. You were really good at it. You're welcome, he said softly. We didn't pick wrong, did we? Grace asked. You had fun, right? We had fun, Caroline said. Then you should see each other again, Violet announced. She's not wrong, Ethan said. He looked at Caroline. I'd like to see you again. For real. She hesitated, then pulled out her phone. One coffee, he agreed. She kissed his cheek before leaving. That night, Ethan lay awake, hope blooming. Her text came at 11:47 p.m. The girls won't stop talking about you. He smiled and typed back. Tell them their project is already a success. And years later, Ethan stood at a wedding again. This time, it was his daughter Harper's. Caroline squeezed his hand. Best recruitment of your life, she whispered. Best decision I ever made. On the dance floor, 3 grown daughters raised their glasses. To the stranger who became family. Some love stories start with fate. Theirs started with a whisper. Pretend you're our father. He stopped pretending a long time ago. Now it was just real. Beautifully, chaotically, perfectly real. If this story touched your heart, let it remind you that kindness still matters. Hope is never wasted. And sometimes the smallest voices change everything. Subscribe and be part of our Heart Echo Stories family. And if this moved you, share it. Because sharing hope might be the kindest thing we do.